Everybody, it's Starrapter here. Welcome to the channel. It's time for another High Republic video as I do every week here on the channel. So if you like that kind of content, make sure you go ahead and support the channel by subscribing. With that being said, today I just want to talk about the time period that this is set in. So the High Republic is set 200 years before the events of the Phantom Menace, which would kind of surprised me if you asked me a couple months ago. I figured this would be at least 500 to 1,000 years before the events of the Phantom Menace. I mean, we're looking back at other things that happened prior to A New Hope. In Legends, we have the Old Republic, which is set for 1,000 years back in the Star Wars timeline. And I think what we're seeing from the concept art is that this is definitely proving to be an area of time that is very fertile with storytelling, as we're going to see the Jedi as Knights of the Round Table-esque. But is the designs of these characters going to be far removed from the Phantom Menace to feel like it's in its own kind of brand of the Star Wars universe and galaxy? And I think that answer could be revealed to us as we see more concept art, because I think a lot of what will come down to will be designs of things like ships and buildings as well, which we haven't seen any of as of recording this video in April of 2020. So when it comes down to it, we look at things like the prequels, right? There's a 20-year gap between the Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and we've seen the designs of Episode 1 to Phantom Menace, and it was so different than what we've seen in, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and A New Hope. We have these very sleek designs that have a lot of shiny metal, like the Naboo starfighters, and all the buildings of Coruscant having a completely different shape, and nothing was damaged or weathered looking as they were during the rebellion. So I think just looking at the gap of the 20 years will give us a good idea of why 200 years is actually pretty good and pretty fathomable for having diverse stories. I think 200 years will also set us up so far removed from the Skywalker legacy that it'll give us characters that will stand on their own, and we won't have all these different cameos popping here and there. I mean, there's only two characters that could really be in this 200-year gap, and that could be Yoda as well as Maz Kanata, who are both said to be about between 800 to 1,000 years old during the time of the sequel trilogy, original trilogy, what have you. So just looking at a various amount of variables there, we're looking at the different characters that could show up. I think 200 years is definitely fertile ground, but it's also, close enough to the Phantom Menace where if this thing goes on, the actual real time of telling these stories goes on for 10, 20 years, we could eventually see ourselves getting into the Phantom Menace with all the amount of space that they're given. They can create these stories for years. The authors can do these stories for years and years and years. And we can still have plenty of room to play with before the events of the High Republic. We can do things like the Old Republic. We can maybe play around with the time a little bit. Maybe it's not 4,000 years as it was in Legends, but maybe in canon, the Old Republic can be 1,000 years before, because we're seeing such different designs, even with the lightsabers so far, that the technology probably will be vastly different in the canon version of the Old Republic than it was in Legends. A lot of the arguments for the Old Republic was, wow, this really feels like Star Wars from the original trilogy and the prequels. Like 4,000 years in the Star Wars galaxy doesn't seem like it could be that much of a jump when these people still have hyperspace travel. They still have lightsabers. They still have blasters, and pretty much everything that you could expect in Star Wars was in the Old Republic. So I do think that Lucasfilm is probably trying to stratify its different eras with a lot more jumping in technology. So with that being said, those were just my thoughts on why 200 years could work, or maybe some people don't think it could work. I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you guys like the High Republic, I talk about the High Republic on a weekly basis on this channel, so if you like what I had to say about this video, make sure you go ahead and support the channel simply by subscribing. I also talk about other things like the comics, I play some games and whatnot, so you might like that as well. That is good for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also included 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.